Welcome to Thursday's edition of NBL Now, the 14th of November. Round 9 starts tomorrow night. No action on a Thursday night, which is a little bit disappointing. We need some Thursday night hoops in our lives, but it means we're one round away from the FIBA break, and Derek Rucker joins us on NBL Now on Thursdays. As always, Ruck, how you doing?
Fools, twice in 1 week we're on the same program. This is outstanding. Let's go.
Always looking forward to any time I have you in the rundown, Ruck, because we know there's exciting things to talk about. We're going to preview some of the big games and talking points coming up for the round before the FIBA break. But firstly, on my Players edition of NBL Now on Wednesdays, I had DJ Vasiljevic yesterday, and we know that he's not afraid to speak his mind. I love the transparency. I love how authentic he is when he speaks. And he said in his opinion that Chris Goulding is the greatest shooter Australia's ever seen. Where do you stand with that? And again, I like the fact that people are going to have different opinions, what they've seen and what they have. And I love that we're getting the honesty from our players.
Yeah, I see where DJ's coming from. An argument could be made that he is 100% correct, but he probably doesn't have history and actual visual evidence on his side. And I was lucky to play with a guy who I think is easily in the top 5. I'd have the argument that he and Chris are neck and neck, and that's John Riley. Yes, the coach of the Perth Wildcats. This guy could absolutely incinerate the hoop. He could shoot it all types of ways. He had step backs. He had crossovers. He was a really good clutch shooter as well. And then, of course, they're the regular guys. Andrew Gaze, okay? Shane Heal. These guys were amazing shooters. They did it at all levels throughout their careers. And I'm going to go back to someone who is very obscure and most NBL followers probably wouldn't know him. Michael Johnson, a Brisbane kid, played the majority of his career with the Newcastle Falcons. He was a guy that was an elite shooter also. And we've been blessed with so many great shooters. It's a difficult one to really assess. And also, you could throw Patty Mills in the mix.
Well, the interesting thing is, Ryan, when you're talking about the greatest shooter Australia's ever seen, is what is the criteria for each person's opinion? Because are we talking, if you throw them in a three-point contest, who's winning the three-point contest if they're all in their prime? Is it being able to get up the volume over the course of a season? Is it being that game breaker that guys like Chris Goulding and John really are? Because there's so many different criteria. Personally, as someone who's been rebounding when I used to be teammates with CG, the 5-minute three-point contest, I saw him miss 3. 3 in 5 minutes, he became a robot. And that stuck with me as something that I potentially never ever see again. And another one that players and fans might know, Darren Ing. Darren Ing is one of the top shooters I've ever seen.
Wow.
Well. Another one who's
legit
just a robot, and nothing has changed. So everyone's going to have differing opinions. I like the John Riley one too. I think people forget how much of a sniper JR was.
And, as you said, there's so many different criteria. Andrew Gaze and I spend a lot of time in pregame warmups analyzing the technique of shooters. And I think we touched on this in overtime a couple of days ago with Nathan Sobey. You look at him, everything looks picture perfect, but right now he's going through a shooting slump that he hasn't been able to break out of. So you can look at guys, Corey Webster, another guy with a beautiful stroke. But yet then there are other guys. Say me, for example, whose stroke is a little bit unorthodox, and also your shooting percentages were affected by the amount of defensive attention you receive. If Bryce Cotton didn't receive so much attention, his stroke and his technique and his courage, he's a mid-40% shooter from the three-point line.
Well, before we start to talk about the round, I need a one-word answer here, Ruck. So we've already got to the final of the ultimate three-point contest in NBL history. All players at their prime. We've got Andrew Gaze, Shane Heal, John Riley, Chris Goulding. Who's winning a three-point contest? Just getting it off the rack.
Heal.
Yeah, it's pretty hard. You talk about just getting it off a rack. It's a lot different than getting a pass. I think Hammer would be up there. Let's talk about the round. Tassie and Brisbane kick things off. This is going to be Brisbane's first doubleheader this season. They played against Tassie, who are feeling good about themselves, albeit a big win with Milton Doyle only scoring 3 points. What do you expect?
Well, it's funny, Pete, because I'm here at the stadium and I just saw Tyrell Harrison come in to try and get some extra shots up with assistant coach Pat Ewing Jr. Love that level of commitment. Obviously, the Bullets are locked in. They understand the challenge. Pete, they've got 2 games, and sitting at 3-5, if they are to drop both of these games and go to 3-7, you start to kind of buy them a ticket to Rapsville. Is it over? I don't know, but it's not going to be easy from there. And this is going to sound crazy, but I think they actually have a better chance of beating Perth here on the Sunday in Brisbane than they do of getting Tassie down there. Tassie are a little bit scary now because they get a little bit of confidence and their defense has been cranked up to a good level. I think they're going to be a really tough out down there Friday night.
Now, you never want to be in Rapsville. Rapsville's never a good place to be, especially before a FIBA break. But you're right, Tassie, they built a fortress. They continue to do so at home. I think it's going to be a big test. And Justin Schuler's wanted the doubleheaders. He's been screaming for it. He thinks that their record currently is only because they're not playing enough games. Now they got the opportunity to test themselves before the break. The game after on Friday night, the second leg of the doubleheader, Perth Wildcats welcoming the Phoenix into town, the red-hot Southeast Melbourne Phoenix. And news dropped throughout the week on Channel 10 that Bryce Cotton's expected to play. Does that surprise you with the FIBA break and, again, another 2 weeks he could have had extra rest?
It does. It might be one of those cases where they put him in, they let him run early, they gauge how his fitness is, and then they make a decision. So it's a true game time decision, as in game. Okay, Bryce gives him feedback. I feel good. I can go. Then you ride with him, knowing now you can use the FIBA break to your advantage. So any little aggravation you would hope could be overcome in the next 10 days with the time off. It's an interesting game. It's a fascinating game. Southeast Melbourne, I think you and I both agree, they look a lot better. But are you convinced that this is going to go on the road with them? That's going to be the big test. The improved defense. Is it going to hold up out there against a team that likes to play high-paced basketball? And if they have Bryce back, they're going to be tremendously powerful on the offensive end.
What's impressed you most about the way that Perth has played without Bryce? Because Ben Henschel's been terrific. Elijah Pepper's stepped up. Munz has been good. Keanu Pinder's role changed a little bit, but he showed flashes in his new role. What's been the most impressive thing for you?
Their ability to find an offensive structure and a style of play that is going to help them win games or keep them competitive. And I think what's gotten lost in Chris Golding's outstanding performance was the fact that, well, A, Perth had a really good lead, and B, they did kind of withstand that fury of Chris's in the third quarter to stay in the game, and they still had a chance to win that game. So, they're playing solid basketball. I just think again, it's a really intriguing matchup, and it means so much on the ladder. One of these two teams is going to go in with tremendous confidence going into the break.
The next game on the list, the first game on Saturday night, the Cairns Taipans taking on the Breakers. Now, I believe from my reports and what I've heard, Sam Wardenberg is expected to play. He's been in concussion protocols, but is ticking the boxes that he has to. So barring any setback, this could be potentially the closest to full strength that Cairns Taipans have been in some time without Pedro Bradshaw, who will still be sidelined. The New Zealand Breakers come in after getting belted by Tassie. What are we thinking for this one? And if New Zealand drop this, how worried should we be?
Well, if I'm New Zealand, this is a must-win for me. It's an opportunity to really solidify a spot in the top 4. And they and Melbourne United really have a chance to create some separation in 1 or 2 from the rest of the ladder, which we know is huge and will be massive. And just giving your team that certain vibe going into the FIBA break. You don't want to go in there losing, and then all of a sudden your coach is like, we need to train, we need to really work hard. Obviously you want to work hard, but you want your coach to be in a comfortable space mentally where he can give you some time off to heal. He doesn't feel like he's playing against the clock. Now, Pete, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on the Cairns Taipans. I think Adam Ford has done a really good job this season, given what he's had to deal with. I said that several times over the past week, and I've received a lot of feedback in the opposite direction in my message request. I think I'm correct in Adam's performance this season, so I'm curious to hear yours. I know you're playing host today, but give me some analytical feedback.
No, I'm with you, Ruck. I think he's been absolutely terrific. Anytime you lose Taron Armstrong, your starting point guard who had the keys to the offense for a long period of time, you lose Rob Edwards through suspension, you lose Pedro Bradshaw. He's lost every starter at some point and multiple starters. And the one thing you see they do is they play hard, and they're going to continue to do that. I believe 2 days ago was the first time they've been able to scrimmage 5-on-5 in practice in over a month, which is absurd at this point in the season. So,
and Pete, what people don't realize is how bad that makes you feel as a player that wants your whole group there. You feel bad when your teammate is over there suffering because he can't play. It's just this cycle. It's not shame, but it's just an uneasiness because we all want our teammates in there. We all want to go to battle together.
And you could tell that Taron Armstrong and Tanner Groves were rusty last week, so hopefully they've got that gone out of their system and they can set up for a big one on their home floor. But this sets up, that's the appetizer, Ruck. I know you're excited for this one. The Freeway Series, Illawarra. It's going to be packed. It's going to be sold out there. The Sydney Kings coming into town. Oh, this is going to be a big one. I cannot wait. Who is this game most important for before the break?
I think it's most important for Illawarra. They're getting all their people back, and I think they need to prove to themselves and to a few doubters that are starting to present in the media that they are a legitimate team. And I'm going to come off the top rope now. I say Illawarra get this one, Pete.
Wow. I think it's going to be a big one. Again, the Sydney Kings, they 7-5, trying to build something. They've shown some flashes. And I think we can both sit here and say we have seen that when the Sydney Kings play their best, it's the best in the competition. The problem is, have we seen it consistently enough through the first 8 rounds? Probably not.
So, Pete, you think Sydney's best is better than Melbourne's best?
I think with Sydney are really locked in on both ends, offensively and defensively, I think they do have a little bit more of an edge, especially on the offensive end. And even defensively, they're the best team in the comp now. But, Ruck, I'm the host. Stop asking me questions. I'm throwing another one back at you. There's individual matchups that just you want to get your popcorn for. So, which individual matchup in the Freeway Series on Saturday is going to decide this game?
I think it's going to be Cooks and Days. And I think Days, he's probably been hearing all of the content that's circulating that has to do with him. And this is a guy who, Pete, I know he understands who he replaced. And inevitably, he would be looking at Gary Clark and thinking, I got to be that. Like, you want to be yourself, but you want to provide that Gary Clark productivity that's going to help this team win. And you're going against the number one player at your position in the competition. Here's a chance to not only help your team win a big game, but it's a chance for you to make your little mark in the cement and be like, okay, Darius Days, I'm here. I'm a big-time hooper.
I'm looking forward to that one as well. I think Darius Days is ready to lock back into the first couple of weeks of the season where he looked unstoppable. The other one is Wani Swakala-Bullock. He got Jalen Adams' number last time. Usually doesn't happen twice in a season when you're a former MVP. But Sunday, the last couple of games before the FIBA break, Brisbane and Perth are going to end the round. We won't talk about that game because both teams played before that in the start of the round. But Melbourne versus Adelaide, this is going to be a whole lot of fun. Now, Ruck, you've played in some big games. You've had some big performances. If you're Trez right now and you know that Jack White's not going to be on the floor, the opposition starting power forward who's probably been the barometer for Melbourne United, how excited are you to get ready for this game?
If I'm Mike Wells this week, I'm going psychological on Trez. I'm pulling him back from activities in practice. I'm holding him back. And not in a way like, I need you sitting out, but maybe just give him a little bit of frustration. Don't let him get the ball as much. Run stuff away from him. Sub him out for a while. Just create a fury in that guy to be unleashed on Sunday. Wreak all types of havoc on Melbourne United because we see how Trez is when he gets amped up. The only fear is sometimes I worry about players that are high-strung playing their game on a Friday, Pete, playing the game on a Saturday when I need you to be at MVP level on Sunday. So that's what I do there. The other thing, from Mike Wilson's point of view, they've got to defend CG coming off of screens way, way better. Wherever he wants to go, the rule is he is going the opposite way. He's not going the way he wants to go.
Yeah, it's going to be a fascinating watch, that one. And I tell you what, I think the secret to Trez, I think there's some incredible Hulk in there. With the secret to Montrez as being amped up is that I think he's always angry. I think that's the secret, right? That he's always angry. He can always turn it on when he has to. But lastly, on this game, before I let you go and enjoy your Thursday, the two best shooters in the league, DJ Vasiljevic, Chris Golding. Who attempts more, who makes more? Give it to me, Ruck.
I think Melbourne United will run a lot of stuff. They got to milk this hot hand right now. And I think CG gets off 20-plus shots, especially in the absence of Jack White. DJ, we know he takes notice of everything. And in game, I'm sure he's probably going to be counting CG's shot attempts. So I wouldn't be surprised if both of these guys go for 20 to 25 points plus. Now, on an even more serious note with both of these guys, you know what I really like about them is that they are great scorers of the basketball, but they also have now decided they're going to use their scoring ability to make their teammates better, whether it's indirectly by spreading the floor, providing proper spacing, or using the threat of their shot, getting the ball on the deck, making plays, kickouts, hockey assists, all that type of stuff. And that's what you love to see with great scorers. Can you impact the game even without putting the ball through the bucket?
It's an exciting round. There are some massive games coming up before the FIBA break. Ruck, I appreciate you as always.
Fools, you're a natural. Love it.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. Round 9 kicks off tomorrow night. Tasmania taking on Brisbane. We'll talk to you soon.